everybody, and welcome back to another ASMR video game review. It's ASMR Cubed here, and today we will be going over Silenthill 2. I figured it would be a good follow-up to the first one, kind of give you a little bit more insight into the story. Now, this review will contain spoilers, so if you plan to play the game or watch a gameplay walkthrough, please click off now so that I don't ruin your day. Also, I will annotate the first video at the end of this one. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. James Sunderland has arrived in the town of Silenthill, Maine, after receiving a letter from his wife Mary, despite the fact that she had died from a chronic disease 3 years ago. The letter claims that Mary is waiting for James in their special place, which confuses James as the whole town was their special place, despite James wondering if the letter is a prank by someone with a twisted sense of humor. James notes that the letter is definitely written in Mary's handwriting, and the author is aware that James once made a promise to return to Silenthill with Mary, and that he never fulfilled his promise. After leaving the town's observation deck and walking to Silenthill, James enters a graveyard and meets Angela Orozco, not sure how to say her last name, a nervous young woman who came to the town searching for her missing mother. She warns that there's something wrong with Silenthill and that there could be a danger, but he ignores her warnings and says he doesn't care if it's dangerous. He plans on finding his missing someone too. When James reaches Silenthill, he discovers that it's not the same beautiful town it once was a few years ago. In addition to the bizarre omnipresent fog, the whole town seems to be rotting away and abandoned. Macabre, vague humanoid creatures are roaming the streets and attempting to attack James whenever possible. When he discovers the path to his first destination, the lakeside Rosewater Park, is blocked, James decides to pass through an apartment complex to reach what he believes to be the special place Mary mentioned in a letter. Inside the apartment, James briefly encounters a little girl who steps on his hand before running away. Soon after that, he finds Pyramid Head, a humanoid monster whose head is completely obscured by a giant metal pyramid-shaped helmet. James later meets a young man named Eddie Dombrowski. While Eddie is vomiting in one of the apartment toilets, Eddie defensively responds to questions regarding a corpse in the refrigerator of the apartment room. In another apartment complex, James finds Angela again, lying in front of a large mirror, contemplating suicide with a knife in her hand. Trying to talk herself out of suicide, James persuades... Sorry about the interruption, guys. James persuades her to hand him the knife for her own safety, and she flees in an unusual panic to resume her search for her mother. After James leaves the apartment, and he finds a girl humming to herself on a graffiti-covered wall, he confronts her in frustration, and she reveals to James that she knows of Mary, and that he never loved her anyway, but then jumps off the other side of the wall before James can get any more information out of her. When James finally reaches Rosewater Park, he meets a woman named Mary, who appears nearly identical to his recently deceased wife, Mary. Mira, that is identical to his recently deceased wife, but showing off more skin and possessing more of an arrogant attitude. During their time together, Mira reveals insight into matters that only he or Mary would know, and acts in a very seductive manner towards James. Mira accompanies James in his attempt to reach his second suspected special place, the Lakeview Hotel, which he and Mary once stayed. James enters Pete's BowloRama, where he meets Eddie again, he also spots the little girl who runs away from James upon seeing him. Eddie then reveals to James that her name is Laura. Outside, Mira claims to have seen Laura, and out of concern for her, has James tried to pursue the girl. After passing through Heaven's Night, James and Mira see Laura enter Brookhaven Hospital. While exploring the hospital, Mira becomes sick and rests in a hospital room. James finds Laura in one of the rooms, but he becomes angry at her for claiming to have known Mary for the past year, in clear contradiction to his belief that she's been dead for 3 years. Laura responds by locking him in a room filled with covered monsters stuffed in hanging cages. Under the pretenses of looking for a letter from his wife. After they are defeated, the hospital undergoes a sudden dramatic change to the other world, where James returns to the hospital to find Mira missing. James later finds Mira in a hospital's basement. However, Mira becomes angry, claiming that James had abandoned her and that he doesn't seem to care to see that she's alive after presumably dying. After she calms down, they continue to search for Laura. Pyramid Head appears and chases both James and Mira through the hospital basement. Pyramid Head manages to slaughter Mira while they attempt to make their escape via an elevator. Alone again, and saddened by the loss of Mira, James decides to refocus on the original task of finding Mary. He leaves the hospital and finds a key buried beneath a statue in Rosewater Park, which leads him to the Silenthill Historical Society. The Historical Society becomes an exploration of 2 levels, Tulucan Prison and the Labyrinth in which Pyramid Head resides. In this area, James finds Mira miraculously alive and locked in a prison cell, who greets him with memories of Mary. Mira claims that they were simply separated in the hospital basement and that she had not been killed. James tells her that he will free her, but upon reaching the other side of the cell, he discovers that she has mysteriously been murdered. From a newspaper article, James discovered that Angela killed her father, who sexually and physically abused her under the complicity of her mother. James saves Angela from a monstrous representation of her father, after which she becomes hostile. Angela expresses her distrust in James and in men in general. As from her experience, they were only after one thing: sex. She also calls James a liar who didn't want Mary around anymore before leaving. Near the end of the labyrinth, James finds Eddie, who has mentally snapped after a life of bullying and verbal abuse by his peers due to his physical appearance and him being overweight. Eddie reveals that he killed the dog of a bully football player and then shot the dog's owner in the leg. It became clear that Eddie is mentally unwell and is willing to kill the next one laughing at him. James unwisely asks Eddie if he's gone nuts, prompting a battle between James and Eddie. James kills Eddie in self-defense and feels shocked and ashamed of himself. James questions his perception of events and leading to the arrival in town, as well as the letter that he supposedly received from Mary, goes blank, indicating that the letter itself was something that never actually existed. James exits the labyrinth and rows of boats on the Lakeview Hotel in hopes of finding Mary. In the hotel's restaurant, James finds Laura, and she's giving him the letter that she claimed to be seeking earlier, which reveals that Mary wanted to adopt her, confirming Laura's claim of knowing Mary for the past year. In room 312, James watches a videotape apparently left at the hotel 3 years ago, which shows that he had killed his terminally ill wife by smothering her with a pillow. For a few moments, James sits silently, realizing the truth and facing his own psychological guilt. Laura, ready to leave the town, finds James and chooses to reveal the truth to her. Laura is angered at him for killing Mary and screams she hates him. Then she silently exits the room. The radio James has been carrying to warn him of the approaching monsters then sends a message from Mary asking him to find her. James explores the rest of the hotel and is served and rotting. And is now nothing more than what remains of the building that had experienced a fire. James finds Angela on a burning staircase, vacantly standing between two skinned and blood-stained male corpses, stitched to a frame, symbolic of her dead father and brother. Angela asks him to return the knife so that she can commit suicide, but James does not comply. Angela ascends into the burning staircase. James states that his room is hot as hell, to which replies, "For me, it's always like this," meaning that her life is always a living hell. Angela disappears into the flames, apparently killing herself off-screen. In the lobby of the hotel, James finds Mira resurrected again and bound and screaming for James's help. She is immediately killed by two pyramid heads. James then realizes that they had been created to punish him for his own sins and proceeds to fight the duo. After sufficiently weakening, and they impale themselves on their own spears, as if to indicate that their purpose had been fulfilled. James is led to a hallway where he listens to a previous interaction that he and Mary had while she was still alive. In this situation, James had brought Mary flowers. She refused them, yelling in frustration at James, stating that she was too disgusted to deserve flowers. By the end of the conversation, Mary desperately pleads for James to be with her. The memory ends, and James enters a large metallic complex with a long staircase. Atop the staircase, on the roof, he finds a woman resembling Mary who is transformed into a monster. After becoming angered by James upon defeating this final demon, the game comes to a close. Endings. Silent Hill 2 does not have an expectedly known chronological ending, and the source has been debated in the fan base. A transition of Book of Lost Memories says, of 4 conclusions, there is only one correct interpretation of each of these indicated endings and different possibilities. The writer of Silent Hill 2 said he has never made an official statement regarding the ending. However, while there are some hints leading towards In the Water being canon, it is still officially unknown. There are instances which could be interpreted as hints.